Hi, Eran.
Hello, Don.
Thanks so much for meeting me here today. What a great place to have
Great
a
to be at
meeting.
the beach.
No doubt,
Always, yes.
no doubt. So, we're together today because you've been in the field of NLP for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to hear, how did you get started with all of that?
So, like, I think every good thing in life it happened by mistake. you know, I was an athlete when I was young. I was in the junior Olympic team, and I was really focused on going to the Olympic Games. And
What were you doing for
I was
sport?
judo,
Oh, wow.
judo, and then a car crashed into my dreams.
Oh,
And I was on my way to a practice. I rode my bicycle, and a car hit me. And from being at the junior Olympic team, you find yourself in the hospital on a wheelchair, surgeries, learning to walk all over again. It was really, really tough here. And during my rehab, I happened to see a magic show
mm.
for the first time in my life, and I
Wow.
just fell in love with magic, me and my brother. So my mom, as part of the rehab, so I would have something to focus on, send us to a magician school. And then I fell in love with that, and I became a professional magician. I performed in Las Vegas, I performed on big stages in Hollywood and different places. I
You were
actually
even
now
in Magic Castle,
at the
weren't you?
Magic Castle, I perform at comedy clubs, and stuff like that.
Amazing.
So when I came to America, I came when I was like 24, and I came for the Magic Castle and for another class called Master Class of Magic. And I went, I had the pleasure to meet a couple. I used to work as a limo driver when I came to America, and they sent me into this drive, and I knock on the door, and an older lady, like in the 70s, she opened the door, and she looks familiar. I think I know her. And then her husband come, and I know him too. And then they give me the luggage. Okay, they're magicians. This is the luggage of magicians.
Amazing.
So it turns to be I knew them from videos that I used to watch as a kid, and they were the two best mentalists in the world.
Wow.
So we had the pleasure to talk, for like hour and a half when I took them to the port. They went to perform on a cruise, and they took my number and they invited me. When they came back, they invited me for a whole day, and they taught me everything about mentalism.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
everything. They opened a whole new world for me.
How would you describe mentalism to someone who doesn't understand what that word means?
Mentalism, it has, it's like reading mind, sending thoughts,
Like the amazing
and
Kriskin.
right.
Okay. Showing
So
my age.
I so I developed a mentalism show, and I was
Oh,
really triggered out by how, as a magician, I can not only create reality for people, but also force them in this way or another to think what I want them to think.
amazing.
And then I went to see a hypnosis show in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And when everybody come out of the show and say, "How did he do that? How can it be?" I find myself ask myself, where I learned to do that. I need to
It
learn
kind of
to do
fits
that.
right in with the other things.
Right. So it was like a continuation. So I studied hypnosis 101. And since I love books and I love knowledge, I delved in and I found a book about NLP. I started to read it and I was fascinated with NLP, which in the world, is considered as the science of excellence.
Mm. Now let's stop again for people who don't understand what NLP even means.
NLP is neuro linguistic programming. And before all the techniques, before everything, what I teach and what I do with people is the language that we talk to ourselves, the story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah,
Because in the end of the day, we live the story that we tell ourselves.
that's
So
create our
why,
reality.
right? So why don't tell us a better story? I mean, we
Right.
create the story. So
Yeah, that's true.
you know, and NLP really intrigued me. I was working as a salesman back then, and it really helped me to soar with my sales. Because it's communication, it's persuasion, is knowing how to touch the juicy point for people that make them want to work with you, instead of selling them.
It's
And
really developing a connection.
it's developing a connection, it's developing rapport, it's really developing win-win situation. Because one of the basic rule, actually the basic rule of NLP, and people unfortunately tend to forget to use it, is always respect the other person model of the world. And people tend to respect the other person model of the world only if it matches their own.
Right.
And that's where lack of communication starts.
Yeah, I know a similar quote that I really love is everyone deserves the dignity of walking their own path. Would that be similar to respecting their path and where they are now and helping them find their way?
To be honest, I'm not too much in agreement with this sentence.
Okay.
For one reason, yes, everybody must have the dignity to walk their own path. That's true. But why not to walk a better path? Why
Well,
a
it's the
lot of
same thing
people
as what you're
using
saying is to respect where they are right now
right, but a
and
lot
then
of
help
people
them see.
exactly.
Yes.
So I have to come from the point that they are at,
Right.
but I want to show them a better way,
Right.
you know.
Because you can't necessarily tell them you're wrong, do it this way. You have to let
No
them
one is
see
wrong. That's the
that
beautiful
they need
thing
to
in
do it
NLP.
differently.
That's the beautiful thing in NLP. There's no right and wrong. Everything is just pure information. There's no right or wrong. What I can consider right, you can consider wrong, and vice versa. So who's right, And that's the reason why we always have to respect the other person model of the world. And that's the basis for any good communication. You know, you were asking about mentalism. So beyond what I learned, it's to develop what we call intuition,
Hmm.
you know. And this intuition that I developed helped me a lot. And I really feel that I have a gift, from God, from the universe, you name it, because I can really see through people. And people that come to seek my help really say that they have a enormous change in their life,
I
that I
see
really
that.
changed
I
their
mean, you
life.
have over 200 reviews, 5-star reviews online, and reading through them, it's just the lives that you've changed.
Yeah.
There have been so many. And one time we were doing an interview, and people came up to you and knew you from other places. So you definitely make an impact on people.
Right. And I feel lucky, to have the gift to do that. And after I studied hypnosis and NLP, I find out about timeline therapy.
Okay.
And timeline therapy is really my passion because with timeline therapy, I can really help people cleanse negative emotion, limiting belief, limiting decisions, really help them to rewrite their own personal story in their mind. And that's why I call this program Reprogram Your Mind for Success,
Mm.
because we get rid of everything that is not productive,
Yeah.
you know, and we instill new productive patterns.
So cleaning negative emotions sounds a bit like a shower. Can you get into a little bit more about how that actually works?
Absolutely. So, timeline therapy, and that's why I love it so much, it's the science of how the unconscious mind, which is the domain of the emotion and the memories, it also has a lot of other prime concerns, but the main is that it's the domain of the emotion and the memories. And with timeline therapy, we discover an access to those memories, and not just to the memory itself, but to the drivers of the memory, which means how we store it and what is the effect that it makes on us. And therefore, because we have the access to the components of the memory, we can change the perception of the brain around the memory. And in the end of the day, our behavior is because of our perception around something. If the perception changes, the entire thing changes and fall like a domino effect.
Yeah. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Pardon?
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Mm-hmm.
Change
Absolutely.
the thinking and
Absolutely. And I met it was about 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago. I got a call from someone who knows me as a magician, and she told me, Eran, there's a kid. He's in the children's hospital. He has cancer, and he loves magic. Can you go and visit him? I
That's
said, of
sweet.
course. And the next day, I went to visit him, and I did magic for him. I spent about an hour with him, left him something, taught him something, taught him some things, and I see that the kid, he was 11 years old. He's mentally strong. He does not belong to the hospital. And before I left, I told his mom, can I have a word with you outside? And she was so thankful for what I did with her son. And I asked her, can I ask you a tough question? And she said, yes. And I asked her, when did you decide that your son would have cancer? That's definitely a tough question to ask.
Yeah, tough question to hear.
And she looks at me shocked. And she tells me, how did you know? I said, because he's strong. He does not belong here. And then she literally cried and she tells me, when I was frightened with him, I knew he would have cancer.
Mm.
Every time that he didn't feel good, I went to the doctor and I wanted them to check if he has cancer.
Oh wow.
The day that they told me he has cancer, I felt like almost a relief that someone stopped chasing me.
Mm.
Now, today, thank God the kid is okay. You know, he went over that. But I just want to show how my intuition works, and more than that, how people's thoughts can create reality, even for other people.
Yeah.
Even for other people. That's how strong our thoughts are.
Yes. That's why they call it manifesting. You think about, you manifest into reality.
True. You know, I had one client, and she wrote me on Google after we finished the program that she spent years and tons of money, you know, on different therapy and different modalities, and nobody could create a profound change like I did in such a short amount of time.
And that happens for a lot of your clients, doesn't it? That they go to therapy for years, and then after 10 hours with you, they don't need to go back to therapy.
You know, it's funny because one of my clients was actually a psychologist.
Oh,
And when she came to me, I asked her, why don't you go to your colleagues? Why do you come to me? She said, you bring results.
yes.
You know,
That's undeniable.
you get results. And I think it's all about getting results. I'm not supporting therapy, you know, that take years and years and years,
Right.
because it's not an bank account, you know, for the therapist. It's
Yeah.
about really helping, you know, the person.
Right.
And
And when
in
people do come back, it's just for focus and motivation. Maybe go over their goals for the
and
year,
also for other
stay
problems
on
that they have,
track,
right? And also on other problems that they have,
new
because you
situations.
know, all of a sudden they realize something else that make them feel stuck or blocks them or something like that, so they come back, you know, for cleansing. And the beautiful thing in what I do, in what we believe in hypnotherapy and especially in Thailand therapy, is that if the brain went from here to here in split of a second to create a trauma, then it can definitely can go the same way back in the same split of a second. It doesn't have to take years and years and years, you know. And that's the reason when I start therapy, when I start, and I don't call it therapy because I don't think that my clients are sick in any way, you
Right.
know. So that's why I prefer to call it coaching, although I'm a master in hypnotherapy and in timeline therapy. But I prefer to call it coaching because I coach their brain and their unconscious mind. And my biggest mission, you know, if people ask me what is the biggest thing that you got from NLP and from all your studies, I say I got to know my best friend, which is my unconscious mind. I use it for healing. I mean, you know what I did with my teeth when I had to pull out the teeth. For 2 weeks, I was talking to my unconscious mind to prepare the teeth, you know, and when I went to the doctor, he said, I never had such an easy extraction. You know, it came out like butter. I
Right.
healed my injury. I healed a lot of things using my unconscious mind, you know.
And that's not unheard of either. There, like Joe Dispenza talks about how he healed his broken back with his mind.
Also, Bruce Lipton in the book Biology of Belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not unknown. However, unfortunately, it's pretty rare for people to use those modalities because most of the people in the world are not even aware that they have an unconscious mind that actually run their lives, whether they want it or not, whether they realize that or not.
Right. And on top of the NLP, you have so many other modalities that you're very skilled at that combine with your natural gifts that it's just a transformative experience, even just having 10 hours with you.
Right, because I go to inner child work using Honopono, which is Huna, ancient Hawaiian healing system that talk about higher self, and purpose. So,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness. For people who live in forgiveness and for people who live with purpose, life are more happy.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with how much money they have or,
Circumstances don't matter.
circumstances or anything like that. It's just happiness that comes from inside.
Yeah.
And I think this is missing in the world today. And that's
Yep.
why my mission with the State of Mind Academy is just to spread the word, to spread the awareness.
Yeah. One thing I talk about a lot is that people say they want to be happy, but they don't ever do anything to make themselves happy or keep themselves happy.
That's true, and I had a client and I had a conversation with him about that. And I told him, okay, in order to be happy, most people don't even stop to think what makes them happy.
Yeah.
So if we make a list of 10 things that makes you happy, then by definition, the more you do those things, the more happy you're going to be.
Right.
So it's
Anytime
really
you bring
easy.
it in.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really easy also in reality. So those are strategies to start to change the way we think.
It's
Because
also easier to see the happy things around you when you're not being bogged down by all your negative emotions.
true, true. You have more clarity. You have more openness. You have better communication with your surrounding because you don't carry all the baggage that you have.
And less overthinking, too.
Absolutely, because you trust yourself, so you have less self sabotage. That's exactly part of the main thing about changing the internal conversation that we have with ourselves. Because one of the prime concern of the unconscious mind is to protect us, and one of the way that he used to protect us is to scare us from different things.
Right. I remember a story once that said, if you tell yourself that I don't want to go to work on Monday, I'm so sick of my job, I don't want to go to work on Monday. The chances of you waking up actually ill on Monday are very, very high because your unconscious mind is trying to accommodate your want to not go to work.
It's funny that you say that because one day I got a call from a friend, and he tells me, Eran, listen, I have a friend that you must help him. I said, what is it? He said he has a hard time breathing. I said, and he needs to go to the doctor. I'm not a doctor. He said, no, he went to the doctor. They did all type of tests and they didn't find anything and still he has hard time to breathe.
It's selling his mind.
So I asked my friend, is your friend really busy? He said, yes, he's really busy. I said, does he tend to say very often, I'm so busy I don't have time to breathe? He said, yes, how did you know? I said, then tell him to stop saying that because that's a suggestion to the unconscious mind. So the unconscious mind is listening after a while.
It's true. I remember one time I was feeling like really crappy and I couldn't figure out why. And I realized that I had a song playing in my ear about having a bad day. So just listening to the singer talk about having a bad day, I started having a bad day myself.
Absolutely.
This is why I always say that only positive music is really important.
That's the reason why I also use the power of suggestions. Because power of suggestion, people tend to not understand how strong is the power of suggestion. And the reason why suggestions are so good because when you give positive suggestions, the unconscious mind tend to accept them.
Yeah.
you know and again, this is a way to learn how to shift the internal conversation. And I think that overall, all the package that I hold and that I give to my clients, that is the main difference between my work, to regular and traditional therapist, and even to people that does different modalities, because here we put together a lot of modalities in order to get the best results for each and every one of my clients.
Right. And you go further. I mean, if you went to someone who was an NLP practitioner, they might not necessarily have all the bells and whistles that you've acquired over the last 2 decades and the extra studies that you've done.
Absolutely. NLP today became like a magic word. A lot of people go to learn NLP, and I see a lot of classes of NLP and courses. And unfortunately, it's not at the same high level that I learned it 20 years ago. I had also the honor and pleasure to learn from the doctor who actually invented the timeline therapy and was part of the branch that developed the NLP and the modern hypnotherapy. His name was Dr. Ted James. And sometimes just recalling him talking, you know, bring you back to state of positivity, and his work was amazing, and I really try to continue his work, and I work closely with his manual and books and everything because it just brings results.
Right. Yeah, they say that even the doctor who finishes last in the class is still called doctor. So
Right.
having all of the credentials plus the 5-star reviews really it enables people to give you the benefit of the doubt at least for a strategy call.
Absolutely, and I do offer a free strategy call.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I do offer a free strategy call for everybody that wants really to check what I can do for them, what we
Like,
can
this
help.
is what I got going on, and can you
Right,
help me?
right. Because I do not take clients, not for myself, not for the academy in general, if I don't see that we can really help.
Right. What would you say is a very common thread through your personal sessions that you do with people? Is there one? Family or parenting or like something that got them into the seat with you in the first place?
So I really think that most people are not aware of how their childhood, and even small events in childhood uh, create rules in their life. And those events when we're young, 0 to 7 or even 7 to 15, and we form rules that not necessarily will serve us good, when we are 30 or 40 or 50.
Right.
And that's why they have to be revisited. And without professional help to revisit and really check what are those traumas, what are those events in the past that made me make some bad rules. And when I say trauma, I had great life. I don't have traumas, what people will call trauma. But still, I had a car accident, that everybody will refer to that
definitely
as a
was a mental
trauma.
trauma. Honestly, to be able to endure what you did and come through it, it was a traumatic experience. I mean, you were planning on going to the Olympics and that was stripped from you. That's traumatic. It doesn't have to be abusive to be trauma.
Again, but here's the thing, even that I don't consider as a trauma. When I did my reprogram to success, with a colleague, um, we came up to a sentence that my father said to me, one day after a judo competition when I was trying to come back after the rehab, that I'm not as good as I used to be, so maybe I should retire. That hurts me more than 1 year of rehab.
Yeah.
And of course, I cleaned it up with my dad and we had conversations about it. But for many, many years, it was something that,
Earworm.
right. And for a lot of people that come to me, it all boiled down to a belief that I'm not good enough,
Why
or
can't you be like your brother?
right, why can't you be like your brother?
Yeah.
Or
Are you ever gonna get your stuff together?
so for more people, it's the simple stuff like that, that they were hearing as kids
Yeah.
that become the manifestation of their life.
Yes.
And it sounds funny, but it's easy to change this thing. So why to continue to be a victim of something that can be easily changed? That's number one. Number two, most people that come to me realize that only once they really forgive to their parents and stop blaming their parents for
Responsibility.
with their life, but they start taking responsibility. I call it the cause and effect. That's where the real personal growth starts.
Yeah. You have to acceptance is key.
Acceptance, and then clear the negative emotion around it.
Yes.
You know, because if you just accept and you accept also the negative emotion around it, then we only did half job.
Right. It's
And
kind of
a
thing.
women cannot be half frightened. It's either
Yeah.
they frightened or they're not.
Right. I'm sure that that has a lot to do with forgiveness too, because a lot of people don't even realize that they can forgive themselves
Absolutely, and
for not being where they want to be yet.
this is the reason why part of the 10 hours of the reprogram is an inner child work to make inner peace with the child that we used to be and to maintain this child that we used to be, because he feeds our soul whether we want it or not. You know, we need to feed this little child that's within us.
Yeah. I think one thing that's great about doing inner child work with someone like you is it's like having someone safe and um, there by your side, so you don't feel alone when you're going back to visit it, and even more so the fact that they don't even need to tell you what they're revisiting in their mind.
Hmm.
They can do it all by themselves, and just have you there to guide them through it all. It's just like, to me, I think about having a time machine and going back with you and little me, and you're like, this is what happened, and it's just, it's liberating,
It is. It is.
even as an adult, to go back and say, this could have been different, and here's how, and this is how you go forward. I just think that's such a gift.
Absolutely.
Give to yourself by hiring someone.
Absolutely. I really think it's a gift that everybody owns to himself and to those he loved. So pick up the call, pick up the phone, schedule a free consultation, a free discovery call. I say to everybody, the number is easy to remember, 424-999-0919. So it's easy to remember, or visit stateofmindacademy.com. Fill up a form, we will contact you. Don't stay in the dark, you know. Don't stay in the dark. I tell it to everybody. Don't stay in the dark.
That's great. I actually have a couple people in my life that I'll send your way because they definitely are having things from their past holding them back from the future.
I would love to help them.
Oh, it's great speaking with you. Do you have anything else that you want to share with the audience before we close?
I mentioned that I'm a magician. And when I was in high school, I flew to London to a class of magic, to a week class of magic. And in the end of this week, the master magician told us that there are 4 rules of magic. And if we follow those 4 rules of magic, then we can really become great magicians.
Awesome. Let's hear the 4 rules of magic.
And today, I think that those 4 rules of magic are actually 4 rules for life. If you
Okay.
implement it, for any skill or anything that you want to learn and be good in life, those are the 4 rules that you need to learn. And it reminds me, one day after a show, I went to my car, and on the way to my car, I passed by a dance studio. And I heard salsa music. I love salsa dancing, so I went inside to see what's going on, and I see this couple. They dance so beautifully. I mean, amazingly, amazingly. And I'm looking at them, fascinated. And when they were done, Joe, the instructor, came to me, approached me, and said, "Are you here for the class?" I said, "No, I didn't know. I just passed by mistake, but I enjoyed really to watch you dancing." He said, "Then come to the class." I said, "Well, today I cannot, but next week I will definitely come. Thank you for the invitation." And I told him, "You know what? Even if I come to the class, I don't think that I can dance like you. I mean,
Right.
that I can lead a girl like you do on the dance floor." And he told me, "You know what? Even in the most complicated dance, you have maximum of 8 easy steps to learn."
Okay.
And if you master those easy 8 basic steps, you can then dance and lead any girl to any music anywhere in the world. Which bring me back to the 4 rules of magic about those 8 steps. And rule number 1 of magic is practice.
Oh yeah, right.
Absolutely. Rule number 2, practice some more. And then rule number 3, I think it's very, very important. Practice until you make it perfect.
Okay.
And rule number 4, keep practicing.
That's great. And you have to do that with life too, because you're never done.
Absolutely.
Never done learning and growing.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much, Eran. This was amazing.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Thank you.